Geoffrey.
Thank you very much, Angela. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. Well, thank you for coming. I hope to lay out some ideas for you. And in a way, I might be batting for the opposition to some extent today, setting up an epistemological position that is in a sense provocative for our concerns and our interests. So bear with me while I take up what is a difficult theme, which is the relationship of our studies to modern thought, and especially the modern thought that comes from the European scientific Enlightenment. So let's start with the mumbo-jumbo and why this particular phrase is so appealing, in my view. One mumbo short of a jumbo. I'll give you the history of this. Within the little section of religious studies at Kent, a tiny and beleaguered part of this university, an incident occurred some years ago in relation to one of the boldest and most profound programmes offered by this university. I refer to the MA in the study of mysticism and religious experience, which I first came through in this university. This programme has been the fount of significant thinking and exchange, and out of it sprang the recent and sadly lamented pioneering MA in the cultural study of cosmology and divination. Now, it so happens that before my time here, an academic administrator with considerable authority in the university was heard to remark that the mysticism programme was one mumbo short of a jumbo. This remark has always delighted me. It sums up a glorious intellectual panorama. It also leads into a true schism or crisis, which is the crisis of the nature of thought that we're dealing with here. And it also exposes, for me, an extraordinary void in which are perilously hung all of our concerns and studies. We hang perilously in a void of unthinking or unacceptance, a place where thought does not go easily, and we try to go there. And so, certainly the august person to whom I refer would regard what we're doing here as one mumbo short of a jumbo. And the short is very interesting. It's the idea that if you get mumbo-jumbo areas, nonsense areas, then even the academic study of them, apparently with some degree of academic distance, even that is actually getting near to being mumbo-jumbo. That's the short, one mumbo short of the full mumbo-jumbo. But you can see it's not liked. And as for the full mumbo-jumbo itself, what place can that have in a university? What place can that have in the modern academy? And so this is a dilemma for us all. For most of us who come to this conference, this is a dilemma. So let's just have a look at the standard dictionary definitions of mumbo-jumbo. Unintelligible or incomprehensible language, gibberish. Language or ritualistic activity intended to confuse. A complicated or obscure ritual. An object believed to have supernatural powers, a fetish. And now, unintelligibility is very interesting because our studies really bear upon what is often called the occult. And the word occult changed its meaning in the period of the Enlightenment from being hidden forces and powers, as the attractive sympathy of things, correspondences, that's an occult force for medieval mind and antiquity, over to the idea of the occult being unintelligible, not capable of rational discourse. And that's where the word occult has tended to become lodged in most thinking people's minds. Unintelligibility, pure irrationality. The history of mumbo-jumbo is very illuminating. Let me give you a clue here. I'll show it to you, and it's very delightful. Let's hope this works. That's it. It comes from the 18th century. It's very obscure, the origins of the term mumbo-jumbo, but this appears to be the likely origin. F. Moore, Travels in Africa, 1738. At night, I was visited by a mumbo-jumbo, an idol, which is among the Mundingos, a kind of cunning mystery. This is a thing invented by the men to keep their wives in awe. Isn't that delightful? Isn't that absolutely delightful? And of course, that's cunning mystery is very interesting here, isn't it? Seen by this enlightened traveller, obviously, as a device of some sort, cunning in its way. So that's where we're left with mumbo jumbo, isn't it? Now, cunning mystery fits very well, really, the general theme of the Daimon, and I want to just bring what I say round to some relationship to the Daimonic intelligence that we're talking about this weekend. This, of course, is a highly ambiguous and tricky concept, the Daimon. There's many possibilities to it. But when I say the realm of the Daimon, and I ask what's the nature of rational discourse in this realm, I have in mind a realm which, according to classical antiquity, many parts of classical antiquity, and to the experience of some of us, is in the nature of an intelligence of this mystery. An intelligence with volition, intentionality, purposiveness to this mystery, manifesting as a daimon, as a mumbo-jumbo. So, and we can see, can't we, that there's a clear limit to how this can be talked about in modern thought, and that's what I'm going to come to now. Now, there are at least two major ways that you can approach the study of the area we're talking about, and I'm going to take the more radical course, even though there is a valid argument for an alternative to that which I'm putting, but I can't do everything in 30 minutes. I'll put the view that, in fact, I favour here. My own view is that the cunning mystery that's referred to here actually is radically other to our ordinary perception and conception. Radically other. Hence, its radicality is of such an order that it raises an ontological crisis in the nature of thought. It cannot be thought. It cannot be thought in modernity, certainly. That's the crisis we face. Now, I've said that the daimon enters into this realm of mysteries and is an intelligence of these mysteries. That's perfectly consistent with classical antiquity in saying such a thing to you. Well, you only have to extend this one step into what this realm of the mystery is to see the immediate epistemological problem we face, because that is the realm of spiritual, imaginal, occult, religious inspirations of all sorts, in all varieties and shapes, all forms of them, including basic religious experience, belief and understanding. All of these things really enter into this realm. So, if we then say that all of those things bear upon this ontological crisis or this mystery, we're back again with the problem that all of these things have with post-Enlightenment thought. Now, one genuine problem that faces us here that I'm not going to have a clever answer for you in the course of this panel is that, of course, these things are attended by much stupidity. Stupidity goes with the territory. The reason for this is that the most banal type of experience attached to the religious or the spiritual can then be dressed up or stated conceptually as a truth of some sort without any guard or standard or guide, no rational monitor of what is being said here. So the range of what we're talking about goes from the most fundamentalist bigotry, where God speaks directly to somebody, so they say, and they act full of fire, full of the power of God, like a jihadist, like a bigoted Christian fundamentalist. That is also bearing on this domain. And any of you who know the practices of the field we're talking about, practice of the occult, will know that stupidity and weak thinking is also part of the territory. And you can see very well why the rise of an extraordinarily powerful mode of thinking in the European scientific Enlightenment found that it was only by excising ruthlessly all such weakness and stupidity that any advance at all could be made in the task of human thought and human imagination. It's very important, you see, to take this on board and not back away from it. Everything we do, you see, is covered in clouds where fantasies and illusions and delusions are just as much part of everything that happens as what might be the genuine, whatever this mystery is. Very difficult to avoid that conclusion. So I'd ask you, see, to sympathise, if you will, with the starkness of people on the other side who I'm going to have to back for a bit on this point. So you only have to go to someone, I won't dwell on these characters very long, you won't want me to, get very annoyed. Imagine what will happen if you had Francis Bacon attending our conference here this afternoon. What would he make of what we're doing? He'd immediately see that everything we're doing is a distemper of thought, a distemper. The type of vain fantasising that we enter into that leads to sterile speculation, where human ingenuity is forever spun in this circle and circle of impossibilities and contradictions and illusions, all leading nowhere. This is one of the distempers of thought that Bacon was able to analyse. And Bacon stands at he's one of the pivots of the beginning of the movement of thought we're talking about, the scientific Enlightenment. You see, it's no good saying Bacon and Enlightenment thinkers have misunderstood something, they've missed something. Well, yes, perhaps they have, but we seem to have to go through that project, didn't we? And one thing I do want to stress with you, and at least convey in this short period to you, is that, once again, views differ widely on this. The response to this can go two ways: complete denial of the problem, back off, I'm going to carry on doing my things, to hell with you saying those things you say. Or the other way is to say, what is it that is being said? Is there a mode in which this can actually be discoursed? Now that seems well nigh impossible for many of us. Some of you might think I'm being too extreme here. I've been involved in the field of divination for many years. I'm an astrologer, and I know absolutely well within my own disciplines the utter impossibility of bridging that gap, despite the stupid enthusiasm of most practitioners of these subjects who naively imagine that they will show this little piece of evidence, that little piece of demonstration, that will prove it, that'll show them, they'll come round to our thinking. Well, no, they won't come round to our thinking. Stupid, you see. I know that, and it's painful to observe that. And so much time and effort and spiritual energy is wasted in this way. And so it's understandable when people say, right, I'm not even going to bother, and they cut off. The problem with that is we're left with a set of practices, those of you who do practice in any of these areas, that are now actually fundamentally disconnected from intellectual discourse in our culture. Disastrous, because intellectual discourse does actually bring enormous fruits into an area. We've ended up with a polarising between experience and intellect, as if you just plunge into experience and that'll solve all the questions and let's not bother doing the thinking thing about it. That too is a fatal divide into which we've fallen in our area since the Enlightenment. It's no good. So, yes, problem with the preamble here being an amble. I'd like to actually take you ever briefly into the challenge set by Kant. And yes, let me find you a nice little quote. Now, I'll give you a piece of information, an interpretation of a statement that belongs to the mumbo-jumbo, and a statement that belongs to the realm of recognised academic discourse. The statement I'm going to bring from mumbo-jumbo is that, as an astrologer, I cannot fail to be impressed that this possibly the figure who is at the summation and pinnacle of the final purifying of European Enlightenment thought is Kant.